Welcome back to TCM.
Thank you.
I'm here with Delroy Lindo, who we've seen most recently in Ryan Coogler's Sinners.
Indeed.
We're about to watch Malcolm X. And some people might think, why are you showing Malcolm X on Martin Luther King Day? It seems like a natural thing to me because these are two figures who represent a much bigger movement and who are not as diametrically opposed as I think many people
Would like them to be.
Sure.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
And I think that the theme of these three films, very consistent because in its own way, this film, Malcolm X, is documenting a man and a time that spoke to the social, political, and cultural dynamics of the time.
Yes.
So very, very consistent from that standpoint.
Yeah. You've made 4 films with Spike Lee.
I have.
This is the first one.
Yep.
You also worked with him on Crooklyn,
Clockers,
and
and The Five Bloods.
Yes.
Yes.
Kind of a 20-year space between those last two.
Right.
But let's go back to your first experience working with Spike Lee. Talk about how you were cast in the role and what it was like working with him.
I'm not answering your question chronologically because one of the things that I remember keenly from working on the film, there were all these black technicians, there were all these black people behind the camera. I had never seen that many black people working on a film. Spike Lee. And that was so inspiring. There was an unspoken agreement. And if ever you speak with Spike, you should ask him this because it was something I was aware of. There was this tacit understanding working on that film that everybody, you had to bring your A game. You had to bring your A game to the work, to the process. And everybody in front of and behind the camera did just that. To your question, how I was cast. Fortunately for me, Spike, this was the second time Spike was coming to me. I had been asked to audition for Do the Right Thing, and I had declined. He came back to me for Malcolm X. And having been in school with Denzel and I were both students at the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco, getting the opportunity to work with Denzel in my audition was tremendous. So I remember auditioning with Denzel. We read 1 or 2 scenes between Malcolm and West Indian Archie. And very soon thereafter, I got the part. It was very special for me on a number of levels. One of them was getting to play a Jamaican man on film. I'm Jamaican. I'm from a Jamaican family. And I considered that to be, I was paying homage to my mom, my own history, my mom's history. And then the content of the scenes themselves, beautiful. And I always recognized, and it has proven to be the case, that there was a certain kind of a wholeness to the way in which the character existed in the script. So you asked me about being cast. There were so many memories that I had. There were so many, your synapses are just firing because there's so much going on and you want to do really well. And I remember I'd never met Spike before working on the film. There was just an openness and a trust that he had in me.
It sounds like just a remarkable creative environment.
Similarly to Sinners, in as much as it represented a cultural moment, right? And to be in a film like that, I had worked in film prior to Malcolm X, but Malcolm X was the first film that started to establish me as a film actor after essentially 10 years of working in New York as a theater actor. And that film kind of catapulted me into another sphere creatively as a film actor.
It's just a remarkable performance.
Thank you.
Let's
Thank
talk
you.
more about some of those scenes after we watch the film. Thank you so much, Delroy.
Thank you.
From 1992, here is Denzel Washington, Angela Bassett, Al Freeman Jr., and Delroy Lindo in Spike Lee's Malcolm X.
beneficent, the merciful. All praise is due to Allah, Lord of all the worlds.
Back with me to discuss Malcolm X is Delroy Lindo. Your performance in this film, it's 5 or 6 scenes, I'm not sure, but they are so essential to understanding Malcolm X's transformation, his journey, yes, but also thinking about the possibilities for Black men during this era.
Oh, my God. I had read Alex Haley's The Autobiography of Malcolm X many years prior to doing the film. When I was cast in the film, I read the book again. And one of the things that I recall Alex Haley remarking about West Indian Archie, my ability to never write the numbers down, right? Always keep it in your head, which possibly speaks to having a photographic memory, but this is a man who had the intellectual capacity to be working, I don't know, if we think about 2026, Google, Apple, working those kinds of jobs. And it speaks to the lack of opportunity that resulted in him doing what he did, running numbers. Again, very contemporary from that standpoint, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we first meet West Indian Archie, after Malcolm has hit this guy over the head with a bottle,
Yeah.
the debonairness, right? Just the fierceness that he has, understated, the style. Your costuming by Ruth Carter, for example, is just
I loved everything about it.
incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what you were drawing from as you were characterizing West Indian Archie in his sort of glory moment, and then when he has his
At the end.
downfall, I guess you
Yeah.
could call it.
In addition to reading the book, I wrote a personal biography of West Indian Archie's life.
Huh.
The full name, Archie Durrell Brown. That was my name. And I asked Ruth to monogram my shirts.
Wow.
Archie Durrell Brown. And I wrote a biography about my life, up to and including Malcolm walking in. I knew everything that I had done up to and including that day.
Wow.
Meeting Malcolm. That was how detailed. But I felt that I had to, because I had to bring my A game. I had to.
And to be clear, we don't get those details in the autobiography of Malcolm X. We get the name, we get that he worked for him as a numbers runner, but we don't really know.
It was all for me. It was all for
Yes.
my own process
Yeah.
as an actor. What's always kind of sort of astounded me is that West Indian Archie is in the film for 12 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
The power of the character in that narrative has to do with the fact there's a beginning, a middle, and an end to the journey. And that final scene, likewise, I had worked very, very specifically and very, very intentionally on. In the script, it said that when Malcolm came to visit me, West Indian Archie was near death. And I said to Spike, what does that mean? What do you mean? What's wrong with West? And he said, I don't know, you work on it. I decided that I had had a stroke. So I went to Kings County Hospital in New York. They had a ward in which there were patients recovering from stroke, and I just observed. And I must have visited, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, and I was just taking in and hoping that by osmosis, if nothing more than by osmosis, something would resonate for me, something would, and it did. By the time we shot the scene in the SRO, I was clear. I didn't know what would happen in the scene, but I was clear about how I wanted to work on it. I was clear about how I wanted to approach the work. And the fact that so many people speak about that scene, that particular scene, as the completion of West Indian Archie's journey, and just the joy that I had, just Denzel and I being able to work together as we did in that film.
Incredible. Thank you for sharing all of that. The work that you did, but also this as a collaboration.
Very much so.
Yes,
Very, very much so.
yes. Thank you so much, Delroy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Stay right here, because coming up next, we have an extraordinary film co-written by Ruby Dee called Uptight.
Next on TCM, uptight, then black moderates and black militants, and later, the murder of Fred Hampton. Bear witness with TCM Tonight.